Koutou katoa. I hope you're enjoying the show, whānau. We're about to go into our next section talking about tino rangatiratanga and the digital age and technology, something I'm myself still learning about, but I have a couple of experts with me today, and I'll let them introduce themselves and then we'll get into this kaupapa because it's really interesting and I really want to hear from the experts. Kia ora, kia ora.
Aloha kākou, kia ora ko inoa no Hawaii ahau. I'm Keone, I'm from Hawaii. I've got a background in physics and engineering and business, and I'm actually a kaimahi at Tahiku Media, self-promoting here. Yeah, we do a lot today with digital data at Tahiku Media, and maintaining the kaitiakitanga over that for us is really important. And yeah, so that's sort of what I do now.
Very flash, Keone, kia ora. And Ben, let us know who you are.
Kia ora katoa toa, ko Benjamin Tairea Tukuino. I am Kaihotu for a Hope. We're working a lot with data sovereignty, specifically for digital media, and so for digital identities. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and how can we use new technologies to really improve some of the systems that we're doing.
Okay. Kia ora, Ben. So, today in this modern world, and we're constantly struggling trying to maintain our tikanga and our reo, not only as Māori, as Indigenous people. How do we maintain the integrity of our knowledge, our cultural knowledge, and move into the modern day world without the threat of what we've been talking about this whole day is about the constant threat of the rights of us as Indigenous people. So how do we maintain our knowledge and ensure it's basically not stolen?
Yeah, that's a good question, Henny. I guess, the important one with maintaining the integrity is practicing tikanga. So taking Māori tikanga, Hawaiian tikanga, any Indigenous cultural customs and bringing those into the mahi that you do with digital media and technology. And I think that's the starting point, because if you can't get the tikanga right, then you're going to struggle to maintain the integrity of your culture. I think the hard part there is how do you get others to respect your tikanga, right? And that's more of a social interaction that you have to have with people for them to respect your tikanga. And you can see here today at Waitangi that is something we've achieved. That a lot of people from around the world, a lot of Kiwi here, are here to support Waitangi and what it means. And then of course the final one though is, well, how do you protect it in terms of sort of international law? And that's where things get complicated with digital media, right? Because we're storing kōrero like this, we're streaming to Facebook, we're putting it in servers in Sydney, and do the laws in Australia protect our Indigenous rights? And I would say they probably don't. I'm not an expert there. But I mean, what's good about being in New Zealand is we are often seen as being at the forefront of, Indigenous rights and technology and things. And we have the Treaty of Waitangi. And if anything, the Treaty of Waitangi gives us a platform to think about how can we create laws in a Western context, because we still have to operate in the Western world, unfortunately. But how can we have laws in the Western world that uphold the integrity of the Indigenous cultures? And I think we can do.
Hey.
Once there, Keone, of course, it's our mātauranga, it's our knowledge, we own it and we should be able to determine what happens with it. And Ben, some of the work you're doing around data management systems and helping iwi also pull together a lot of their traditional knowledge and records. Tell me, what are your comments on some of the issues that Keone's spoken about in terms of maintaining integrity, in terms of maintaining ownership, but also you might have a couple of extra whakaaro there.
Yeah, sure. So this is it's a really big issue for us at Aho, and this is really what we're trying to do. When we talk about sovereignty, we're talking about ownership, we're talking about governance, we're talking about authority. And one of the beautiful things is that with the new technologies that are coming around, it's actually offering us the opportunity for tikanga in that realm. So if we take something like identity, for instance, we can't actually define our identity, and it won't be accepted within the Western model unless we have our passport, unless we have, complying with all of these government systems that are put into place to say, well, I don't recognize you for who you are until you provide these documents for us. And this is a big issue for us. I mean, cultural identity is a huge part of who we are, and it should be our right to decide, to declare who we are and be accepted. And so that's a big issue of what we're looking at with moving into the realms of digital identities, where we actually get to maintain and have authority over that information that people hold of us. So this is, we're talking about having to have ownership of our own birth certificate, ownership of our own passport, ownership of our location, our birth date, and being able to then share that and give permission on who knows that information, and that's ownership of our data, and that's real data sovereignty or self-sovereign sovereignty over your personal data. And so what we're actually starting to see is that technology is catching up in a way where we can operate with tikanga in this digital age, and so that's what we're really excited about, and being able to show and really call it all on.
Yeah, kia ora. I like those points about passport and birth certificates, because it's something that we always have problems, internal problems with as Māori. That others have authority over the. You touched on it. We are ahead. And how do we stay ahead? How do we stay in the native? How do we stay ahead within the realm of technology to ensure, we're not behind, that Māori are forefront in everything evolving at the moment?
I think we need to take the lead on the initiatives that are important for us, and in terms of bringing our culture into the 21st century. One thing for us is with technology, the great thing is that if we embrace technology, it also creates opportunities for our people in that space. New Zealand's a small country, and we export a lot of experts and scientists because, Google and Apple and Facebook, they're all in America, and they take all the best developers. And, in terms of the services we can provide globally, that's challenging. And so what I'm getting at is that if you look at things like speech recognition or language processing, like for us, in order for Indigenous people to have a place in the future, the languages are going to need to be on these platforms if they want to be in those devices. And what we're seeing, though, is that our young people are very much using these devices, and these devices are a significant part of their lives. And so, one of the initiatives that we're doing at Te Hiku Media is getting Te Reo Māori into these devices, and that is taking the initiative on teaching computers Te Reo Māori. We're not going to wait for Google to do it. We're not going to wait for Amazon or Apple to do it, because if they do it, then they're going to own it, and they're going to own it in their way. So the sooner we do it for ourselves, the sooner we can create our own opportunities for our people. We can build the next best app that uses speech technology. We're not outsourcing our language to some foreign corporate and then paying them money so we can have our own language as a service, because that's really just another form of colonization. So, if we want to stay in the forefront, we really need to take the initiative in terms of innovation and do the hard mahi. And I think, if you're guided by your values and Indigenous values, our tikanga, then that's really where the passion comes. And if there's something we're good at being driven by, it's passion for our culture.
Yes. Nui te passion, iti te putia.
Aye.
Ben, anything to add to that? In terms of Māori, there's so many of my whānau that have got all these wild ideas for apps they want to create. Yet, how do they resource that development, or perhaps, as Kioni's touched on, how do we actually upskill our young people to do that mahi, so we're totally in control of our own kaupapa, our own advancement within this field?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for me it was a huge part.
What the fuck? Oh.
Take a deeper dive. Well, being able to explore our creativity within that, and what if we were encouraging our rangatahi to start to create their
Yeah. Bro, sort
own
of.
games, and what sort of stuff would they come up with? That would be a really cool kind of way to say, what are you passionate about? Is it gaming? Okay, well then, what would a game look like to you if you created it? And sort of really sparking that interest within that realm. And so I think there's a huge need for us to be really encouraging rangatahi to be looking at technology. We know it is going to have a huge impact on the world that we're in, and we want to be major players in that. What we really need is diversity within this industry. We're seeing, we're so underrepresented within the development industry, and so we need to see technology being created by our people, because once we have a greater understanding of more people, we can have greater solutions. So I think there's a real area for us to really be at the forefront and to lead that.
Really good.
Boss.
And
My man.
I've got a lot to think about there. I keep telling the kids, get off the PlayStation, get off the computer, get off the Facebook. But it's the reality that engaging with the digital age, right? And so how do we, just tell me some more, Kione, there's so, like, we're at Waitangi today, we're talking about tikanga, we're talking about reo, we're talking about sovereignty, we're in our beautiful whare runanga o te tiriti o Waitangi. What are some of your hopes and aspirations for the future? And I mean, like, reality, we want to see some real tangible goals, and can we achieve those without government funding?
Oh wow, good question. First of all, I did play a lot of PlayStation when I was a kid, but we had a generator because we were a bit pohara, and which was good because when the generator ran out of gas, you had to stop playing PlayStation. So maybe if we put timers on our video games, that might be one way to help. Anyways, I think I turned out all right. Yeah, that's a challenging one. Tika Media, we're a charity, and we rely a lot on government funding, which comes through past grievances caused by the Crown. But having said that, we've done a lot on the smell of an oily rag, and I think I'm not encouraging government to not give us too much money and that we can do it on a low budget, because we can't. Looking at you, but that's often, we're quite creative, we're resourceful Indigenous people, because, we're stuck on an island in the middle of the Pacific. We only have what we got. And through the thousands of years that we've been there, we've figured out how to be quite resourceful. And so, I guess I would encourage people to just do it, just try something and see what you can come up with. You don't need to buy the flash gear. Go with things that are open source, because they're often free to use. Use commodity hardware, so things that you can just buy off the shelf that are cheap. And you can teach yourself a lot online, watching videos on YouTube and things like that. I think, though, that the government does need to provide more funding for innovation initiatives in the country. In terms of R&D spending across companies in New Zealand, it's significantly low compared to the other OECDs. And in fact, a lot of corporates just get money from the government to do R&D. And so they're not actually spending their own money to do R&D. We're actually doing a lot of R&D at Te Hiku, right? We're teaching computers Te Reo Māori. There's a lot of new things happening there. We could always use more money, but that's a challenging one. I guess my final thing I want to say is that, as any business in the country you can choose to buy a service that helps you to operate your business. For example, you might pay Google to build our own platform, rather than paying somebody else to do it. And the main reason for that was Tino Rangatiratanga. We wanted to maintain the sovereignty over the platform, because that has become our whare kōrero. That is where we put our data. And for us, it is so important that as kaitiaki, we look after that data with tikanga. And if we're putting that data on YouTube doesn't know our tikanga, and they don't care about our tikanga, because we're like one person out of hundreds of millions of people who use their platform. Same with Facebook. So nothing's really free. It's, oh yeah, YouTube's free and Facebook's free and Instagram's free. You're free to put your stuff up there. But when you do that, you're giving them the ownership of your data. So if we were to put our Te Reo Māori onto YouTube, we're giving them Te Reo Māori. And you got to ask yourself whether you want to give Te Reo Māori to Google. And so I would encourage organizations, if they have the capacity, to think about that critical thing and who's going to look over your data. And if you're the one who's supposed to look over your data, then make sure you're the one looking over your data. And the only way you're going to do that is to build your own platform.
And saying that, we're having a few technical difficulties, and Kiona is our man, so he needs to go and have a look at our data. And we're just going to, I'm not sure if we're going to a break at the moment or if we're going to go back to Ben. Sounds like we're going to carry on talking to Ben. I've got some good points there, Kiona, kia ora mai. Yes. This is the brilliance of live TV and having experts around this field that we're broadcasting you live today, whānau, from the whare runanga o Te Tiriti o Waitangi. It's a great day today. We're all here in our beautiful whare, carved in 1940 to commemorate the 100 years since the signing of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And Ben, Kiona said some really good points there, but I wanted to talk about also around the creating more economy for Māori. If we're talking about being innovative, being ahead of the game, being masters of our universe, how do we ensure we're benefiting from it? Kiona says, there's Google, we need to, there's all these other kind of Apple, whatever, and they're benefiting. How do we position ourselves to benefit at all levels within this industry? Tell me what's going on.
Look, I mean, that's a really complex question, really hard to answer, and I have, some really strong opinions about how we might be able to do it ourselves, and I'm willing to share that. And I think one of the things we need to remember is we actually have a lot of the most valuable asset in the world, and that's people. And we have the unique value proposition where we actually want to work together for the benefit, for the common good. And what we can do with that, if we can make decisions and work together within the way that we purchase things, what are the things that we all buy? We were all spending money on our cell phones. What if we decided to get together and we would decide, well, as an iwi of, say, 20,000 people, we will purchase from a certain provider. And then what influence can we then have on that? We're talking about something that would be like $1 million contract. What can we say? Well, actually, what if we then decided that we would set up our own mobile phone company and we could start to purchase from ourselves? And then we can start to create our own economic model and our own economic society, if you will. And that's something that I really want to see us sort of working towards, and something that I'm kind of striving for personally. And we have that community buying power. We have the ability to really fund ourselves and grow within ourselves. We have the people and we have the skill, something that we can also grow as well. And that's something that we're working really hard to try and do. And we know that the beauty of this is that technology actually offers us a new way of doing that. It's not something that's new for us, but it's a new way. The world is always changing. We're more spread out now. So what can we do? We can get together online. We can meet online. We can start making decisions online. And so that's something that we really want to sort of see our people move forward into comfortably.
Tautoko ahau, Ben, ko te mea nui, ko te tangata, and that's how we do achieve things, is working together. I really like that kōrero around collectiveness, So Peter Lucas has just joined us as well to replace Kione, our data man, who's gone to...
Oh, shit.
Ki tēnei?
Ai. Well, kia ora rā, hoki mai ahau ki te awhi I te kaupapa. I've come back to keep us company. Kia ora. Yeah, and I think when we look at technology, te reo Māori and tikanga Māori, whilst we are kaitiaki, and of course to be responsible kaitiaki of data that would be used for innovation or development, I think we need to clearly understand what that means. I think a lot of our people that are involved in development and innovation today have not been steeped in the understanding that those of us that have grown up in the haukainga have in terms of being on the ground. But when we blend those two experiences, they really complement one another. And when we have people that can support from the tikanga and te reo aspect, and people that either our Pacific cousins or our own close whānau that are iwi Māori, I think we bring ourselves to a place where we can develop through understanding one another. There's a whole lot that we don't have to explain. And I think there's the beauty about Polynesia, in so much as you can go to the Cook Islands, or you can go to Hawaii, or you can go to Samoa, and the protocols around encounters share some very close similarities. Whilst there are differences, but those aspirations around intergenerational transmission of te reo Māori and tikanga Māori, or our indigenous languages, are very much strongly rooted in our desires for the future generations. When we think about our whānau today, we don't live like we used to live. I mean, we don't live with our great-grandparents living in the house, our grandparents and our parents and our aunties and uncles living close by. I mean, everyone's had to go and get a job, because the way that we exist in the Western context requires everyone to be on the payroll at some level. So I think that technology provides us a new way to connect with people, to give people an experience and expose them to te reo Māori, so that we can actually provide those experiences for our whānau. The closest they get to their marae is a screensaver on their computer. But how can we complement that screensaver? How can we offer te reo Māori as something that enhances their ability to connect with the kainga? So we've started doing digital innovation work, but we started from a very grassroots level, and being connected in the kainga provided the opportunity for us to be community-led and not academic-led. And I think that was our point of difference, having a community, belonging to a community.
Kia ora, nō reira, e te iwi, intergenerational knowledge for me, Pita Ben, is when the kuia rings you up and tells you to go over because she can't work the remote control on the sky.
I want to say something. Our kuia, Heni, she does karakia on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Auntie Lenny Kapa, she's in her 80s. My other auntie, Auntie Nellie Kirkwood, 95, she's hard out on Facebook, yeah.
We're poking gigs katoa. E te iwi, we just unfortunately come to the end of our broadcast. Thanks for joining us today, Ben. Really good to talk to you. Also to Peter Lucas and to Kione. Ngā mihi kia koutou katoa e te iwi. Kaua e tāhuri atu. We've got our last section coming up on kaitiakitanga. Is it a reality? Are we practicing our guardianship? But just a section on tech innovation, tikanga te reo. Everything's going awesome. Thank you to Te Wānanga o Aotearoa and Te Māngai Pāho for supporting this broadcast. Ngā mihi kia koutou katoa.